Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is the one and only Ben Winston, Hollywood-based producer and director, currently executive producer of The Late Late Show with James Corden, famous for Carpool Karaoke, Drop the Mic, producer of the Grammys, producer of the Friends Reunion. Ben Winston, it is great to see you. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well. How are you doing? Nice to see you. Thanks for inviting me to be on your show.
Well, listen, you've been collaborating with the likes of One Direction, JLS, Robbie Williams, Gary Barlow. It's about time you have Rabbi in front of you on the screen, I think.
Absolutely right. This is the big one. This is the one I've been waiting for sure. Thanks.
Same here. Now, if you wouldn't mind, tell us, Ben Winston, in 60 seconds, tell us a little about yourself. Tell us about your upbringing. You're a North London boy, done good, now in Hollywood. And I'm sure everyone is so curious to hear more.
Okay, I grew up in Hampstead Garden suburb. I spent my youth at Norrisley. I was a Benair Kiva boy. I at one point was Scun and Roche of Norrisley BA. I went to Northwest London Jewish Day School for primary school, and I went to UCS for my senior school, secondary school. My father's very well known to the community. He's Robert Winston. He's a legend and a wonderful man. My mother's probably even more well known to the Jewish community, and that's Lyra Winston for all her work she's done. That's me, I guess. I grew up in the suburb. I never really left the suburb. I went to Leeds University for 3 years, and then I came back to the suburb once I was married. And then I moved to Los Angeles this sort of January. It will be 6 years that I've lived here, which is insane, really, because I always said I would come here for 9 months. I would set up the Late Late Show with James Corden, and then I would go back. I promised my parents that would be the case, and sadly, and not sadly, for various reasons, it hasn't been the case. I've stayed. I don't think I'm here forever. I think I'm here for this period of my life, but I'm enjoying living here at the moment. It's a very rewarding and fulfilling job that I'm doing every day. So
that's
yes.
An incredible career.
Does that answer your? That was you said Ben Winston in a minute. That's about right. That's about
perfect. That was perfect.
Okay.
But just tell me, I mean, you know, every teenager's dream to go off to Hollywood, to be a producer, to do what you're doing. Was this always your aspiration? Was this what you were always planning to do? Tell us a little bit about how you got into this altogether.
Yeah, well, I always wanted to work in television and film. That was for sure. I knew very early on that I had a fascination with making, directing, producing. I was always involved in the theatre clubs at school, or you know, holding a camera and making sort of short videos. That was always a thing I wanted to do. I remember at a young age editing, you know, my friend Josh Bentley's parents' sort of 20th anniversary video. You know, I was always like editing stuff. In fact, that's how I met my wife, because Meredith, well, I'd met her earlier when we were kids, but she got in touch with me because she had said, oh, you know, I need someone to edit my father's birthday video. And suddenly she was coming over to the house for a little bit more often than I needed her to while I was editing that film. And that's how I met her. But yes, it was always what I wanted to do. So I guess what I did, I was very driven as a youngster. I was someone who knew exactly what they wanted to do and where they wanted to be. And so every summer holiday, Pesach holiday, whatever else, I would be doing work experience wherever I could. I would be getting as much work done and working for free, whether it be getting people coffee on the set of EastEnders or working at Talk Sports for, you know, booking the guests, whatever it would be, I would go and do it. And I would learn from people. I would make connections with people. And so then when it was my turn to go out into the real world and try and get work, I had sort of a real network of people that I could be in touch with and work for. And I had lots of very kind people along the way who helped me and looked out for me and supported my career in the early days, including my parents. I was very lucky that they, you know, I think my mum would have preferred I was a lawyer and my dad would have probably preferred I was a doctor, but they both have always, all three of us, me and my two siblings, they've always supported whatever we wanted to do. And they taught us about independence and about making your own choices and making your own decisions. And I think that's definitely followed through to me in my career today.
It's incredible. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're the youngest producer of any late show in the US.
I was. When I took over, I was the youngest producer of any late night show in the history of America. I think when I took over, I was 33. Now I'm 38 or 39. I've just turned 39. So now I don't think I am. I think that Trevor Noah's producer is younger than me now, which is a shame. But you know, you can't stay young forever, right?
Tell me something. What's been your greatest career moment? I mean, I'm sure you've had loads of great moments on the red carpet with the celebrities. If you could just perhaps share with us one or two of your greatest career moments.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, what is my I don't know really. It's a tricky one. I firstly think that I think probably the first Late Late Show episode we ever did was one of the most life-changing nights of my career and life, you could argue, in that when we came out to America, James and I, no one knew who James was as a talent, and no one knew who I was as a producer. And these late night shows in America, they have such importance out here. In England, if I was to tell you there was a show on this late at night, no one would ever watch it. But here, late night, from the history of David Letterman, of Johnny Carson, of Conan O'Brien, of Jay Leno, there's such importance around these shows. I've never really understood it, and I still don't really get it, even now I'm here. So when they announced that James was taking over, there was a lot of articles all over America that was James Corden who, and why is an English guy taking over? Why is an unknown guy taking over? Why is a white guy taking over? There was a lot of talk of criticism of the appointment before we'd even got started. And then when I was announced as the showrunner, which is what they call essentially the boss in America, the showrunner, I was taking over from an 85-year-old man called Peter Lasali, who's actually this man right here. This was his office, and Peter was a legend in my business in that he was the producer of Johnny Carson, of David Letterman, of Craig Ferguson, and he was an icon of this industry, and I was taking essentially his role, taking his office even. And so I think there were a lot of questions about it. And so James and I knew when we moved here, I just finished producing The X Factor in the UK, which finished at Christmas time. And then we had flown out and we launched end of March. And those 2.5 months in the lead up to our launch were the most intense, I think, of any of our lives, because the pressure was phenomenal on us both. Not only did we have to create a show from scratch, we also had to employ 120 people in a country that we didn't live in. And, you know, get to sort of work out what would be in our show every day, because you're not working towards an hour of TV. You're working towards 200 hours of TV a year. We're on every weeknight, not on Friday nights. And so that first night, I think of it like, you know, a tactical Arsene Wenger or Jose Mourinho plan. We literally, every element of that first night, from the way the lighting was, to the way the set looked, to what James said, to the sketches that we did, to the guests that we booked, which was Tom Hanks, to the comedy bits that we did, to the music at the end, every bit was planned so that hour was really our one chance of succeeding in America. Never has there been more focus. You know, everybody watches the premiere. They might not watch episode 2 or episode 10, but they're going to watch the premiere because there's so much hype around it. There's so much advertising towards it. There's billboards all over America. And so I was very aware, sitting in this office, that would be the case. And so I remember we filmed that first episode. It went out, and I sat here in my office watching it go out in New York, because I get the New York feed. And then I watched it go out in LA, which is where I am. And then I just sat in this room all night watching and waiting for the reviews to come in, waiting for the ratings to come in. And I literally locked the door. I was in here on my own. And it was a really amazing night, because luckily people loved the show. The rating did well. And we were up to the race. And I remember I got home and woke Meredith, my wife, up at like 6 a.m. And she said, how did it go? What's happened? Is we going to be all right? And I said, we're going to be okay. We're going to be all right. And then I had a shower and came straight back here, because we had show 2 to do that night. But I would say if there was a significant moment, I think it was that, because if that had gone badly, I think we probably, in America, there's no mercy. When you succeed, there's a lot of reward. When you fail, you're on the next plane out of here. And so I think that night was very pivotal, because the narrative was, oh, this show is good. And it allowed us to do all the other things that we've done since. And I think we're still benefiting from that glow that we had from that first night of being successful. So I would say if there was one moment that changed our lives, it was probably that hour, that night on March the 23rd, 2015.
Incredible. What a story. Now, you mentioned you don't have a show on Friday night, and you're an observant Jew, have had a very Jewish upbringing. What's it like to be Jewish living in Hollywood? And tell us a little bit about the community and Jewish life over there.
So I definitely don't feel. I'm a member of Westwood Village Shul, which is a small community and it's above a coffee shop. It's a bit like Central Square Minion in the UK. I would say that's the biggest comparison, which is also where my parents now go. Yeah, I mean, look, Los Angeles has got more Jews than London. So I'm not, and Hollywood in itself, from the president of Disney to the, head of, I'm trying to think with other big Jews here, but to the head of Universal Music, there's a lot of Jews in this business. So I definitely don't feel like I'm like a Jew making my way in a tough world of this business. I don't think it's that at all. Look, we've found people to be so friendly. We found people to be so wonderful here and really welcoming to us. I still don't feel as much of a connection to the Jewish community here as I do in the UK. I still think about the sort of community. The Jewish community in the UK is still my community in a way,
Sure.
because that's where my roots are. Shul is quite far from me. I mean, look, during coronavirus, of course, we haven't gone to Shul since March, really, because all the shuls have been shut. But even before then, I would be lying if I said I was going every week. It's a 40-minute walk from my house, which in the heat of California is, when I used to walk up the A1 to go to Hendon to visit my mates, it was easy. That 40-minute walk was a joy. In the piercing heat, when you've now got 2 small children, it's a lot less fun. So I wish we were doing more within the community, but it is what it is. But I think, look, I'm very proud to be Jewish. It's very much part of who I am and my upbringing and the way I think and the morality that I try and bring into the workplace and the people that we employ. And the respect that we show to everybody. There's definitely Jewish elements that we introduce into the staff at the Late Late Show, whether it's, lighting Hanukkah candles together or explaining why I'm doing a Zoom meeting in a sukkah or whatever else. There is stuff where, I try and explain a little bit about who we are and what we do. But yeah, I mean, I think, being a Jew in Hollywood is not abnormal. So it's a very comfortable place to be. I think that the politics has been an interesting thing for Jews out here. And that's been more, for me, something to think about, because I think that, some Jews have been very vocal about Trump because, of course, he supported Israel and people say, oh, he's been really great for Israel. Whereas I think the majority of Jews out here don't necessarily think that that's the most important thing, because I actually think it's about morality and it's about kindness and it's about generosity. That's what I see Judaism about. I see Judaism about being good to your neighbor and being an example and of leadership and morality. And so that's why I think that it disappoints me slightly when some of the community here have supported Trump, but the majority luckily haven't. But we won't get too political. But that's been a thing out here lately. Definitely in America, it's been a real thing where you'll have Jews in Shul going, yeah, but he supports Israel. And it's like, yeah, but that's not what this is about. So I think that's been a big thing of the LA jury right now, which hopefully will all calm down now we have a new president who's a normal person.
I mean, Trump's been very polarizing, and you've got Jewish people. I did an interview with Erica Brown, who's an educationalist and a tremendous leader, and she discussed this idea. There are Jews who will go to Shul and say, how can you as an Orthodox Jew support Trump? And then there'll be others who say, how can you as an Orthodox Jew not support Trump? And it's become very polarizing. But as you say, let's not get into politics. Let's talk about leadership. I know you mentioned about your roots being in the UK community. Your parents were very close friends with the late Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks, who unfortunately we are still grieving over. Perhaps you could share with me your family relationship, your relationship with him, some great memories with him.
Well, it's a tragic loss for everybody, no question. He was the most remarkable man. What I did know him. I knew him like everybody else did. He married me and my wife, which I'm so grateful for. We actually have just printed a picture of him marrying us under the chuppah, which we're putting in a frame in our house as sort of a memory of him. So he's in our house. Him and my father and my mother were very close. My mother sits on his board and of trustees. It's just a unbelievable loss for the community, and it's such a shock to everybody because, of course, we knew he was ill just before, but had no idea. I don't think how serious it was. I think what amazed me about Rabbi Sacks was how he could connect to everybody, no matter how learned, no matter whether you knew nothing or you knew everything, whether you were frum or you were not Jewish. I remember persuading him to come to Leeds University when I was president of Leeds JSOC, and how he was with the students and how he gripped everybody. I remember talking to him recently, and he would always ask how I was doing or how my career was going, or make a joke about television or Carpool or singing in a car or whatever. It was amazing that a man that knew everybody had made everybody feel special. He made every individual feel like he knew them and he understood them. And I think it's, yeah, he was a true great. I don't think there's anybody like him. It's really interesting. About 2 months ago, I remember the head of Fox Television, not a Jewish guy, the head of Fox, the president of entertainment at Fox Television, called me, a guy called Rob. I won't say his surname because I don't know if it's a public story. And he called me, and we were talking about a show that I might be selling him. And he said to me, oh, you've got to listen to this podcast that I've just been listening to, because, he knew I was Jewish. He said, it's Rabbi Sachs. You've got to listen to this interview he's just done on American radio. He was talking about his book, Morality. And he was like, you have to listen to this. This is amazing. He's one of the smartest, cleverest men I've ever met. I can't, did you ever meet him? And I said, oh, he married me. And Rob, literally, he just couldn't get over it. He was like, but he's one of the all-time greats. I read everything he writes as a non-Jew. He speaks to me about what I should be doing, he makes me feel better about the world. He teaches me how I should act, and I'm not even Jewish. You've actually met him. And I didn't want to go like, yeah, I have, because it felt like I was like name dropping or something, that I was like showing off that I knew him. So it really moved me how an American guy who is not Jewish, the thing he found most amazing about talking to me that day was that I had once met Rabbi Sachs. And I know that's a very random story, but it literally happened 2 months ago. And it showed the reach that he had, how he could touch people in such an incredible way. And yeah, he was a remarkable man, and I can't think of anybody alive who is like him.
Tremendous. And you're living up to his amazing goals that he's set for all of us in the amazing work that you do. You're making a tremendous Kiddush Hashem. And I think you've got like 500,000 people following you on Instagram and Twitter and everywhere else.
I'm not sure that's exactly what Rabbi Sachs was after for me. Was
well,
Instagram.
You know what? Though?
I'll take the compliment. But I'm not sure. But you're very sweet. But I don't know.
I don't know if you remember this, Ben, but I remember about 10 years ago I was teaching at JFS, and you came in to do some sort of book club or something, or with I guess with the drama students. And the kids were very excited you were coming in. You're somewhat of a celebrity, and that's an amazing opportunity of the impact that you can have on the wider community. My final question for you is, some would say, Ben, that you certainly have the looks and the charisma to swap seats with James Corden on the sofa. I mean, are there any plans for that? Would you ever go on the other side of the camera? What do you think?
Absolutely not. Never. It's of no interest to me, really. I love what I do. I love creating. I love being able to do the things that we do. And, every day I get to work and I have an hour of TV that's going to be on the #1 network in America, and we've got to fill it. So tonight, in 12 hours time, there will be an hour of TV on CBS, the #1 network in America, and we'll fill that hour with entertainment and jokes and interview and chat. And it's a blank piece of paper that I get to come and create every day.
How many people are watching that?
Oh, I don't know, really. I'm not sure. On a bad night, I reckon tonight, near enough 2 million will watch it live, and then hopefully a few people will watch it afterwards. And then we have 26 million subscribers on our YouTube page. So and we're in 150 countries every night as well. So our show is broadcast in 150 territories. So that's what excites me. I think fame is something that when you're young, you lust after and you think it's going to be really great. But I actually have seen, not the other side of it, but like, you're permanently judged and you're permanently on a pedestal and you permanently have to watch what you say and what you do. And you're permanently, somebody loves you or hates you. And I think that's a very hard thing to put up with. And I think that it's very complicated. You're judged in so many ways. And I think that people in the public eye have to put up with that. And I don't always think that's so easy. And I don't always think they realize that they're entering that life when they go into it. So I feel like I have the best of both worlds in that I have utter anonymity. But at the same time, I can work with the most talented people in the world, of which I think James is one of them. I think he's just an insanely brilliant talent, and I couldn't do anything of what he does. But yeah, I still work in a really creative, exciting industry that every day tests me and pushes me and challenges me in all the shows that we make.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel very, very fortunate. But I wouldn't swap it for anything. No.
Well, I can just tell you, Ben, this series is called My Mother Would Be Proud. I'm sure your mother is very proud, and your father. The whole Jewish community is proud of you. Keep up the good work. And if ever you need a rabbi on the Late Late Show, I'll try and stay up late.
I appreciate it. We'll get your singing voice ready for a carpool. That's what we'll do. Thanks for having me. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much.
Take care. See you soon.